With your boys over there at EHT, Nick.
And they have the bye week this week, so they're taking a week off. They have to prepare for St. Augustine Prep next Friday, so I think they needed the 2 weeks to prepare for them.
They definitely did. They got to turn things around. Coach Stetzer, I'm sure he's got some game plans going on to turn things around. They started out 3-0, now they're 3-2, so really a couple big games coming up for the Eagles.
Prep, St. Joe's, and they end with Millville. So it's going to be
the gauntlet.
It's a tough, it's the exact same stretch they had last season where they struggled with it, and then they nearly pulled out a win against Millville last year. But if they're going to make any type of push for the playoffs, they'll have to at least beat Millville at the end of the year, and possibly upset one of these big parochial schools. Otherwise, it'll be a tough way to end the season. Yeah,
no doubt. Hopefully, the bye week did some good for Dante Moore. I know he was kind of nursing a little bit of an injury there. With the ankle, I believe. So hopefully the Eagles can get things back on track here in the bye week. Now, when you were in high school, what do you remember most about the bye weeks, and what was that process like in terms of whether you were coming off a win or a loss? How different was it?
Not too different. You kind of just go out there, you practice. You basically just practice the same way you did any other week, except there's no game on Friday. You kind of just take those extra days on the weekend to mentally prepare yourself for another week. So the bye week's kind of like you fix up a couple injuries. You polish some things off. You correct your mistakes from the previous week, polish things up, and then you just kind of slowly process into your game plan for the next game. So you kind of just take that bye week as it's just the next week of practice. It's like going back to the summer, just practicing. There's no game. You're not worrying about anything. You just try to just polish up everything for that week, and then just get ready to go into game week only a few days later.
Now, this is an exciting time of year for high school football. I know you keep track of it while you're up there at Rutgers through Twitter and all that stuff and the radio calls and everything. What's been your impression so far? I mean, we're coming down to crunch time here. We're starting to see who's who in these division races, these conference races for the Cape Atlantic League. What's your take on the season so far, and what really stands out? It got to be St. Augustine really taking things and running with it after that first win over St. Joe's.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to allude to. The Prep easily looks like the best team in the Cal right now in either conference. They're 6-0. They rolled again last night. Big win over Absegami, 41-14. Dominated them. They arguably have the best running back in the Cal right now in Dobbins. As he went off last night, he had 182 yards, and he scored 4 times last night. So
yeah, typical day at the office for Dobbins.
Exactly. Only off 21 carries, too, so kids averaging a big chunk, too.
Yeah. I'll tell you what really impresses me about the Prep is their defense. They've really been sticking it to people. You know, you got a guy like Jim Brady in the middle there, middle linebacker, and they play with an attitude. And kind of what you see from Cedar Creek, same situation where the offense is so powerful that the defense gets overlooked a lot. Talk about that a little bit. Those two defenses really coming to play and really playing with an attitude to where, hey, they want to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, Cedar Creek and the Prep, they score a lot of points week in and week out. But like you said, the defense for both teams is overshadowed because they have offensive studs on both squads. Over at Cedar Creek, you have Mitchell and Bo Mellon. Over there in the Prep, you have Dobbins and Jose DeBoer, the quarterback. So I mean, the defense is really getting overshadowed for both teams, but they're not allowing many points. As you saw, the Prep last night only gave up 14 points. I believe Cedar Creek only gave up 14 last night as well. I mean, they're not giving up many points, and then obviously the offense is just taking it to them on the other side of the ball and just running up the score. So, these are probably the two most complete teams in the Cal right now. I'd say the Prep is far and above the best team, but Cedar Creek not too far behind them in terms of overall talent on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Cole and I were talking early in the show how that's going to be a heck of a matchup if, in fact, both of those teams are not involved in a state championship game, that Thanksgiving game. I believe it's at Prep this year. That, if you get a chance to go to that game, you're going to see some outstanding players.
That's like that. I mean, there's no overall Cal title. You just win each conference, but
right.
I mean, you figured at the end of the year, those are probably the two teams that are going to win the National and American Conference. So it's
still some work to do for each of those teams, but the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks.
But you can almost see that as long as they're both conference champions at the end, you can kind of see it as like an overall Cal championship.
De facto championship,
exactly. So it's basically bragging rights for who's the best in this who's the best in this whole league out of 15, 18 schools, whatever
right.
Cal is now. and it's the last year for the Cal, so it's got to be. I would say it has a bigger impact. It was all these teams moving to the West Jersey Football League next year. So if you have two conference champions going at it on Thanksgiving, you're going to see. I think that's going to be the game to watch on Thanksgiving
for sure. I'll tell you what I've been impressed with is, and this might sound kind of crazy because they only have one win, but Ocean City, they got that win against Egg Harbor Township, and then last night really took Millville, a very strong team, to the wire. I mean, they had that little hiccup against the Prep where they didn't play particularly well, but this is a team. You got to give Coach Kevin Smith down there a lot of credit for keeping these guys focused. It can be tough when you're not winning these games at the high school level to keep these guys their heads on straight and not giving up. And they've been playing really hard. I've been impressed with them with the effort they've been given week in and week out. They had a real nice effort against Mainland. They kind of let things get away in the second half there a little bit. Talk about them a little bit and how tough it is to keep bringing forth that 100% effort when you're not getting the result you're looking for at the high school level.
Well, it's all mental preparation. I mean, like you said, Ocean State's played really hard this year, and every game, aside from the Prep game, they've been close. And it's obviously got to be tough to lose close games like that. I mean, my senior year in high school, we were 2-8, but we got blown out a lot of games. So it was kind of just like it felt a little. I would say it felt a little worse than being in close games and losing close ones because. You know the effort's there. If you're playing in these close games where even if you're not winning them, the effort's there. You're just on the cusp of breaking through. And I think they saw that when they were able to upset EHT. I mean, they shut them out in the first half, and it was at EHT that they shut them out in the first half, held on for a 19-7 win. Last night,
and that's a pretty good offense, Egg Harbor Township. They can do a lot of things offensively.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Ocean State's defense was playing lights out that game. They forced 5 turnovers in that game, even though it was probably another sloppy weather game. But they forced 5 turnovers against the EHT. Last night, only lost 20-13. They actually drove down the field and they scored on the last play of the game, which was a 4th down, but it was called back. It was offensive pass interference on Ocean City. So
that's heartbreaking.
It was taken back. They tried one more play. Untimed down, incomplete pass. So they know it's there. I think they realize that they are better than their record says, which I think so as well. I mean, this is a
I mean, you heard who was that Denny Green a bunch of years ago?
They are who we thought they were. The anniversary of that was just a couple days ago.
I think it was Bill Parcells who once said, you are what your record says you are, but
I don't think that's the case for them.
I don't think so either. I mean, they've been really playing hard.
They're easily about a 3-2 team, easily instead of 1-4. There's definitely a couple games they could have won. Like last night, they could have won. So I mean, I would say it's a big difference between 1 and 4.
Yeah, they lost in overtime to Vineland.
Yeah, so last night and the Vineland game, that's 2 winnable games right there. Right there, that's 3-2. If they come out on the other side of that, they're 3-2, and they're in the thick of the Cal race. How
excited are you about next year's scheduling? We haven't really talked about this too much so far this fall, but like we said, the Cal is kind of incorporating itself into the West Jersey League for a real big super conference. There's been some talk of the Colonial Conference joining in to where that would put 95 teams in one conference. You a fan of that?
No, not really, actually. I mean, I'm all for having these smaller schools, especially in the Cal, play other smaller schools because you have teams like Ocean City, for example, playing schools like Millville, the Prep,
Absegami,
EHT. Because EHT is a Group 5 school. Gammy's a Group 4 school. The Prep's the Prep's a non-public Group 4 school.
Right.
So, and Ocean City is only a Group 2 school, I believe.
They're a Group 3, but they're a small Group 3.
They're a very small Group 3 school. They're basically Group 2 in my mind, but. I'm all for smaller schools playing other smaller schools, but the fact that they're integrating the Cal into the West Jersey Football League, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I read up on it, and I understand why they're doing it to incorporate.
I think it's going to be good. You're going to see teams,
like
Lower Cape May and Pleasantville play a little bit more competitive schedule for them.
That I'm all for, but the fact that I mean, it's a super conference, and that's not really.
And you might see some pretty cool matchups. A team like Egg Harbor Township can go out and play like Williamstown or Delsea, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we scrimmaged. I mean. We always scrimmage them anyway. We always scrimmage Williamstown, Delsea. They might play Cherokee's in the West Jersey Football League, correct? Or they are.
I'm not sure. I believe so.
But you'll have those teams in that area. I mean, what is good about it? You'll probably see some rivalries come back, such as the St. Joe's Hamilton rivalry. That'll probably come back
right.
as soon as the Cal teams make the move over into West Jersey. So you'll see probably some good matchups come back.
It'd be great to see that game not on Thanksgiving, because a lot of times one of those teams is in a state championship game and it ends up being kind of like one team's JV against one team's varsity. Exactly. You don't want to get kids hurt. So
that's true.
That'll be cool if they can play that kind of like in mid-November or mid-October.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically not a fan of it because it's a super conference. I'd rather see individual conferences and fighting it out. But I mean, I'm all for the smaller schools getting better matchups, and I'm all for seeing new games play. But basically, all these Cal teams are almost going to be playing the same schedules they do now. Just there's going to be West Jersey football, which is a little weird, but just considering this.
I think the schedules will diversify a little bit as they go in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to start out right away. You're not going to see EHT play, all these other teams, such as they'll probably play Hamilton again. They were Hamilton's a former Cal team. You're not going to see them play Williamstown, Delsea, and Lenape, 4 straight weeks or something, 3 or 4 straight weeks. So, but I mean, we'll see how it goes. Right now, I'm not a fan of it just because it's a quote unquote super conference. But I mean, I'm all for a change, and we'll see what happens next year.
Good stuff. That's Nick Kosko. He's a contributor to Glory Days Magazine, sophomore up there at Rutgers University studying communications. So good to get him back on the radio. Going to get him back from time to time as the school year goes on.